Good evening. My name is Gina Hassett. I'm the Executive Director for the Frankfort Park District. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening to our town hall meeting. I'd like to get us started by kicking off our introductions to those who are here this evening representing the Park District and some other groups. With us this evening we have our Board President, Mike McCary, Commissioner Tom Bars, who's our Vice President, Commissioner Mark Ponton, Commissioner Elmer Gentry, and Commissioner Tom Rivoli. We have some key members of the Park District staff here this evening. Stacy Proper is our Superintendent of Recreation. Ed Newton, our Superintendent of Parks. Let's see, sorry, I should know everyone. Newly staff that we have with us, Regina Ross Ellison, over in the corner. Kristen Morrison, our preschool, after-school day camp coordinator. Beth Nagel, our athletic supervisor. And Julie Sullivan, our fundraising and community outreach coordinator. We have some other key people with us this evening. We have our Operation Playground Board. Chris Herder, Tamara McDonald, Dave McDonald, Sarah Simons. We have some key partners with us tonight. We have Keith Wallace from Lincoln Way Special Rec back in the back. We have Todd Stanton here from Design Perspectives, our landscape architect. And we have some other key folks in the room. We have we have Jessica Petro, Village Trustee, I see came this evening. Thank you for coming. Trustee Dan Rossi, and Trustee Maura Ragoni. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Senator Mike Hastings to kind of kick off the start of our evening.
I guess it's probably safer not to screw with the microphone, so I don't, we're good. I just want to say good evening and thank you to everybody for coming. My name is Senator Mike Hastings. I represent the southwest suburbs of Chicago. So if you live between Markham all the way down south to Matheson, if you go all the way west to Lockport and then Joliet, that geographic square is the area we represent. We represent 250,000 people. It's a very, very diverse district. I'm proud to have served for 12 years as the senator for the south suburbs. We have some staff here today that I want to introduce. Kevin Daly, who's in the back. Kevin, raise your hand so everyone can see you. Kevin fields all of the calls in our office. So if you have a problem with the state of Illinois, Kevin's the guy who usually answers the phone and fields the call. So Kevin's usually medicated, and we just want to say thank you very much. And then I want to introduce our chief of staff of our office, Howard Robinson. Howard, raise your hand. I want to give a little background on Howard. Howard is the former Command Sergeant Major of the National Guard. And for those of you who don't know what that is, Howard commanded 15,000 of our troopers and deployed them to Iraq, Afghanistan, and throughout Europe. So Howard runs our office, and we want to say thank you very much for your service and what you do. Thank you. So tonight, well, good evening, how are you? Is that a McFarland up there? Is that what I see? Yeah, I expect nothing less from the McFarland clan. So I live in Frankfort. For those of you who don't know, I lived here for the past 4 years, and this town is awesome. And it's awesome because we have community representatives that are involved. If you look around, our entire Park District Board is here. We have members from our board here. I meet with members of our board here in our town, whether that's at the Old Plank Tavern or at the Cup of Joe. It just depends on what's going on in the day. But I'm really proud of their service. I'm proud of what they do for our town because downtown Frankfort, in my opinion, comparatively to the rest of the state of Illinois, is probably the crown jewel of the south suburbs. We have excellent, excellent facilities, but there's always room for improvement. And that's my job, is to help bring back things to our neighborhoods and our villages to make the quality of life better for all of our people. So I wanted to quickly give a brief update of all the projects that'll be coming back. Maybe not all of them, but some of the highlighted ones. I partnered with Gina in the Park District and Mike with the Park District probably a couple years ago. Tom, I think we met at the Cup of Joe that day. And I had taken my kids to the splash pad. And for those of you who remember the splash pad prior to it being the new splash pad, the water sort of had a red tint to it. And my son was like, you know, Dad, I don't think I'm going to go swimming in the splash pad. Or am I going to go in there? And that kind of sparked this investment in our parks. Because in a way, our park district is limited to how much money they're able to raise and how much money they're actually able to spend on upgrades. So we had put about $364,000 into the splash pad, and it's probably one of the nicest things that we have in town. So If you look at all the other things that are going on, downtown Frankfort, the board took some great actions to bring new businesses into downtown. With new businesses requires probably a little bit more parking. So we awarded the village of Frankfort Jessica, I think it was about $1.2 million to redo the parking lots over there. So we're going to have a really nice, that's great. The McFarland clan can clap for that too. Thank you very much. Usually I get booed at town hall meetings, but so the parking lot's going to be expanded downtown. We have the lighting is going to be upgraded downtown as well. And then if you look at some of our parks, what we're going to do, we're going to repave the entire Prairie Path Park and we're going to widen it. I'm sure a lot of you walk your dogs or walk around the path and you notice it's kind of deteriorating a little bit. So we're going to redo the entire path. And then if you look at the park in downtown Frankfort itself, Prairie Park itself is not a park district park, it's a village-run park. And if any of you have kids, you can understand what pea gravel, how much fun that is when they start launching it at each other. I think it's time for an upgrade there too. So we're going to put about $600,000 into Prairie Park as well. Some of you don't like that, but I'll just tell you, I think it's necessary in order to continue to develop the downtown area. What we're here for today, though, is probably the most historic park renovation that Frankfort has seen. Now, about 5 years ago, the state of Illinois voted to have a capital infrastructure upgrade. And so whether it's roads, whether it's bridges, whether it's schools, whether it's non-for-profits, we've chosen to invest $55 billion into our infrastructure. And this is one of the projects that we're going to bring back. Fort Frankfort obviously was built by the community, and I'm very cognizant about that. And that's why I wanted to have this town hall today. You deserve to have the input as to how you build your park, especially something as historic as Fort Frankfort. And I know Gene is going to go into that. But this wouldn't be possible without a collaborative partnership between the village, the park district, and our office, and we're really proud of that. At the end of this town hall meeting, you're going to have a chance to vote on what you like, which I think is really cool. You get a chance to, little features that you like on each park. You get to pick it, and that's what's important. It's your park, it's our town, and you should have the ability to pick it out. And I think it's going to be one heck of a project. So I'm going to stop talking because I know that I think Mike's going to get up, or someone's going to get up and talk, and then I'll answer questions at the end. And so I just, if you have tomatoes with you, just don't throw them tonight. I'm okay. I'll try to answer your questions at least as straightforward as possible. So again, thank you very much for coming out tonight. Gina, I'm going to turn it over to you.
If you've had a chance to watch the screen before the meeting and so forth, what you saw was images of the Fort Frankfort existing playground being built by the community. As I did some of these introductions already, I'll just scroll through these slides. All right. So Fort Frankfort is historic. The residents built Fort Frankfort. So I'd like to invite Dave McDonald, who's one of the board members from Operation Playground, to come up and give the story. So I think it's best to come from Operation Playground rather than from myself. So thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Gina. Appreciate it. It occurred to me today as we were heading here, my wife and I, Tamara, that the idea for this Operation Playground Fort Frankfort was hatched in this very building in the late 90s in the main room of this facility. And I can remember that night when we came over just to find out what this thing is going to be all about. In the late 90s, there was an idea to build Fort Frankfort from scratch with all private money and volunteers. There's a great story on the Park District website. I encourage you guys to look at that. It gives a more detailed history of the dates and some of the projects we do. I'm going to fill in some of the blanks of that. But we got together and in 1 week in October in '99 built what you see as Fort Frankfort. And it was something like I've never experienced before. The whole community got together. It took several hundred people every day for a week to build it. And in 1 week, the principal part of the building was done. There was food there. There was like a circus tent. It was huge that we would have meals prepared. We had restaurants that would donate meals. We would have volunteers come. We would have organizations. I had a new job, and my company came out for our volunteer day, and we had a day working at Fort Frankfort from people that had never even heard of Frankfort before. The only thing I can liken it to is kind of like a barn raising. Everyone got together, and it just seemed like an impossible thing. They sunk the poles one day before we started, and then a week later, it was done. And that was the beginning of a great organization and a board that we formed. We formed Operation Playground Foundation really just to maintain it. And that grew into having fundraisers every year. We would park cars for Fall Fest. And we would then use that money to maintain and put fresh mulch and sand and restain the structure because it's made of wood. So we would preserve that, and we would do that every year. And it's several $1,000s to do that every year. And then from that, we decided to do additional projects. We built another pavilion that's standing at the park there. We created pickleball courts from our tennis courts. We built, we funded basketball courts in Main Park that are beautiful fiberglass backboards, first class all the way. And we also built the Bark Park, which is right next door to Fort Frankfort. And at a different time, we provided lights. So we keep on keeping these partnerships with the Park District to increase our green spaces in Frankfort. We also did an exercise pod that's on the trail at Bingham Park, and we're still looking to continue to grow that board and to partner with the Park District and to continue to provide recreation space for Frankfort. But that week of building it was something that I'll never forget. And just the volunteer spirit of the community coming together, wanting to do something that was for everyone, kids, parents, grandkids, that whole thing. It was just one of the great things I love about living here. Also during that time, we had things for the kids to do. If you wanted to volunteer, your kids would, we had some space at the grade school that was next door, not the junior high. And we would have activities for the kids, and they would soap screws that would make it easier to drive screws into the wood. So stuff like that. It was just a wonderful time. And we're hoping that this board lives and that these projects live and that we can do more and more of these type of things and fund these type of things in partnership with the Park District. So I just want to give you a little bit of a flavor of what that week was like and how rewarding it's been to maintain the structure, which is very unique, and then have it in this same room where the first idea was hatched to talk about how this park lives on and other projects that we could do in the future. So that's kind of my 2 cents there. Thank you. Thank you.
I should have asked before I introduced Dave, are there anybody else in the room who helped build Fort Frankfort? I know there's some people who are longtime residents here. Some maybe were kids at the time, but it is iconic, and we are very thoughtful in our replacing of Fort Frankfort because of the connection it has to the community. So Senator Hastings mentioned that there's funding from the state for this project. So we're receiving $1.7 million in DCO funding to fund this replacement. And that's a lot of money. To give you an idea that any one of these boards that you see in the room with the playground equipment that we're looking to replace it with, the playground equipment is approximately $400,000 to $450,000. And the the ADA accessible surfacing that we intend to put below the playground is another $400,000. So that is just the direct cost. That's not the installation, that's not shelters, that's not paving. Those are just the two. So of that 1.7, we're at about $800,000 roughly before we hire anybody to put a shovel in the ground. So it's expensive to build playgrounds. I don't think most people have any idea what the true cost is. So of that 1.7 million, we intend to put it all into this project here at Fort Frankfort. There's a board here this evening. This is a site plan. I know it's a kind of hard rendering, but it's hard to read because there's a lot going on. But we intend to replace the playground equipment. We intend to replace the picnic shelters. A couple people have asked what they saw online. The splash pad will remain there. So this is going to be complementary to the brand new splash pad that Mike Hastings mentioned that we replaced a couple years ago. We'll be connecting them, and these will be complementary to the existing splash pad. Planning for the future. Let me turn my page because I can't read that small print on that TV, so bear with me. The DCO funding will allow for replacement in the coming year. So we're taking feedback from you tonight, we're taking feedback online, and we're gonna take that and then we're gonna tweak the designs that seem to make the most sense of what everyone's in favor of. The playground equipment that we'll be using will meet the new current safety standards. As the years have gone on, the standards for playground equipment have changed. We maintain the existing structure to be safe, but the standards change, how close the pickets can be together, the fall height, things of that nature. So the new playground will meet the current safety standards. This will be the first inclusive playground design for the Frankfort Park District. Another thing that elevates the cost of this playground is to make it inclusive for all. And one might say, what's inclusive for all? Well, there's certainly people that may have mobility issues to getting up and down equipment, but it's beyond that. We're talking about being able to consider physical, cognitive, social, and emotional developmental issues in the design. So we may have communication boards, we may have sensory areas, we might have a quiet sensory area where people can get away from the loud play. So these things will all be taken into consideration in the design of the playground. Increased shade with expanded shelters. The shelters there are small in size, so the new shelters are intended to be larger. And then the new playground will reduce the maintenance that we currently have for the playground. As Dave McDonald mentioned, it's wood. So every year, Operation Playground with a lot of good kids from Lincoln Way East and some of the other surrounding schools, we go out and we sand it and we stain it and we put down wood mulch. And it's a lot of work to make sure we keep it safe. Those of you who frequent it also know that we get a lot of bees. I don't think the new design will account for all the bees, but the bees do like the wood. So all of these things will be taken into consideration and be addressed in the new playground design. Preserving the past and planning for the future. You can see in the designs that have provided this evening and as well as online, we would love to take into consideration for Frankfort when we're designing the playground. So many of the designs here this evening include replica greeneries. There's some nods to the bridge over LaGrange Road. There are some transportation themes in some of the playground designs because we want to make sure that we're representing Frankfort in this iconic playground. So you'll see that in some of the designs here this evening. We solicited design concepts from several different playground companies. You can see them, their names are on the board. The one that's adjacent here to the table is Leather & Associates. That is a playground, those are the manufacturers of the existing playground that's out there. That playground design that you see on that board wouldn't be the exact same design, but what we would do is take the feedback if people are saying, oh, we'd love to see a replica granary, or we want to see exactly what Fort Frankfort is. We're going to try to infuse that into a Leather & Associates design. But the Leather & Associates playground would be more of a engineered wood product that would replicate wood but would not be wood. We're going to share these concepts with you this evening. There's also an online survey. We're going to review that feedback and we're going to incorporate it into a new design. Estimated timeline, when is this all going to happen? So we're listening tonight, we're listening online, and then we're going to take the next month or so to kind of go back and tweak those designs, and then keeping it in within our budget cost. That's certainly an important part. In late spring, we hope to have that design finalized and be able to go out to bid and get pricing for construction. And then in early summer, we hope to award the bid to a contractor. The hopes is to leave the playground intact for the summer when we get our peak use, and then as we wrap up the splash pad and kind of roll into the fall, ideally in a perfect world, we would stabilize the site and get ready for the construction season. It may come together like that, it may not. Playground equipment does have an order time, so it depends on what we're ordering, but that is kind of our intended timeline for the project. Before I go into questions and answers, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we'd like to have you participate in this evening. When you came in, hopefully you got a sheet of paper that had some stickers on it. One of them is a star, and we're hoping that you'll use that star to post it on the board with your favorite design. And then you were given the numbers 1, 2, and 3. We're hoping that you'll use those to indicate 1 being your favorite piece, 2 being your second favorite, and 3 and so forth. But what I'm looking for on the number side is the detail. So if you really like a specific item, on a project, put it on that little item. And if you didn't get stickers, please see our staff at the doors. They'll give you more stickers. We're hoping to engage and answer any questions we can about Fort Frankfort or the playground as a whole, Commissioners Park, or the Park District. We have many members of our board here this evening and staff that we would like to engage with the community and answer any questions that you have. Senator Hastings will answer any general questions. We do have Todd from Design Perspectives, our landscape architects. Todd, is there anything you want to add about the design process? Will you stand up just because they're recording? Thank you.
Just briefly, as has been mentioned tonight, understanding the history of the site is really important to me as a designer. So it's great to see the turnout. It's nice to respect the past history and make some new history. So we do have about 200 folks that have completed the online survey, hopefully some more. So we are getting some excellent feedback, and we'll take all this in consideration and do something that will make the Village of Frankfort proud.